Not too far from Reticort, a sort of net thing had been set in orbit of the system's star. This net thing was very wide, very thin, and very shiny. You might think of it as a lampshade. It had suddenly been deployed from a large ship spotted skulking around the system in recent weeks, and its effects on Reticort were hard to overstate. From the surface, this net created a constant solar eclipse, turning day to night, and denying night of even the paltry illumination the reflective surface of Orbital once provided. It was the long night, although we're getting ahead of ourselves here, as when it first started, who could have known how long this night was going to be? In fact, of all the people on Reticort, it was only a few residents of 3-Up Fort that were anywhere close to working out the cause of this mischief.
"The IPA must be here," Shah declared before the crew. "Their antics from below the surface didn't kill us, so they forked out for an easy way to starve us into submission."
"And it's gonna work. Any worth in actually just submitting early and getting out of here, butter?" Tumas suggested.
"I can't talk to them. They're from the inner passage after all. We can't get our emitters to interface with their technology."
"What's that meant to mean?" a frustrated boy interjected.
"It means we can't ask them to stop killing us. And if they wanted to talk to us, they certainly could, but they haven't."
"Sounds like the Overlord," Staves remarked, at which Boy and Lady argued with him for a time. "I mean, he's got a point. Might as well be the great spaghetti or some butternut coming to kill us all. Works out the same for us," Huntsman said.
"Shah, is there really nothing we can do?"
Lady pressed. Shah sighed and shook her head.
"We might be able to surprise them by dying particularly slowly," she offered.
"Each time we are destined for death, the winds have changed," Comarero said. "This is but a step on the journey. If we die now, why did we defy the Cote at all? We submit, or we are free of it. There can be no other rest." "I agree with Com. We might as well stay alive," Boy said. This staying alive idea proved to be quite popular all around. Lucky someone bothered to put that one out there. Of course, with a little thought, it was clear that they weren't entirely out of options. "Everyone, it's time to break the laws of the seasons and prove that we'll live in the Hollows if it means one more day, one more chance to prove ourselves and earn salvation," Boy declared. "They can take the light from us, but all we have to do is blow. Blow harder and faster than ever before. Blow like your lives depend on it, whatever it takes, until the job is done." This motivational speech, which carried on in a similar fashion for a minute more, ended with Boy pointing at Tokka.
"I'll do it! I'll make us fields from here to the core!" Tokka cheered. "And I'll make sure there's enough blow work to make our own sun, our own Overlord," Staves pledged. "Don't put it like that," Boy said. "I'm happy with that," Tumas said. "Works up on Orbital, all kinds of other places too a bit. Food don't care which Overlord it's suckling." "Don't put it like that," Lady said. "Thing is, don't you think the farm's gonna attract attention if the rest is dying off?" Holt said. "Don't mean to be soft-hearted, but if it's only us we're planning to save, we gotta live with the guilt, and live with everyone we threw under the truck coming out here to get in or die trying." "Then the rest of us should make sure they die trying," Kerma said. "I like the way you put it, Butter," Huntsman said. "Could always just tell them about the magic farms, then they might stay away," Stave suggested. "Wonk, we can't deliberately spread heresy," Boy objected. "I thought it wasn't heresy since we're going to use it." "No, it's still wrong. There ain't a single bit linking up with those caves. But even if I'd rather die, I have to do something for the rest of you, don't I? Aside from asking your god not to kill us all, I think that's really the best path. You're a good man, Boy," Shah said. "Well, we better get started. It'll be getting dark soon, huh?" Holt said, and everyone laughed. It was a hopeful scene as the crew decided they were going to survive the latest apocalypse as well. The in-cave farming experiment was to be greatly expanded, meaning that with a lot of blow work, the farm could carry on into the soon-to-be long night. New windmills were fashioned and fresh bundles of pipes quickly snaked into the mountain. Outside, the approaches to the fort were barricaded, walls were strengthened, shooting holes were fashioned, and what crops still stood in the fields were brought in.
It was early autumn, so the hall was good. Enough to last a winter or two in dimly lit comfort all on its own. Overall, sunlight or no sunlight, there was reason to believe that the plan to reflect away Redicot's sunlight with a big net thing would soon be, ironically enough, foiled. Word was sent to the Tet cities that they needed to work out how to grow everything in their basements by spring, whether Boy protested the heresy or not. Hult's chance connection to this otherworldly crew just casually saved his people, so even without the harrowingly piercing stare of Kerma to enjoy, his attaché mission was going pretty good. It's all starting to seem like hardly a roll-up at all. Of course, such an impression is entirely inaccurate. These bloody chancers were inviting two major problems into their lives with their survivalist operation. Problem number one showed up within a week. The constant darkness made it hard to see people approaching the fort, and so the first sign of trouble was a clicking sound coming from an outer field one morning. Tokka was relaxing in the hay grass nearby and went to take a look. She walked up to the outer wall and heard muffled whispering from the other side.
Hello?
She called out. At this there was a series of groans and moans, and then the wall was suddenly cast down by an army of hammers. Kill 'em all! And similar such shouts erupted. Tokka dashed back to her bed of grass and whipped up her shotgun. She was supposed to be keeping watch, and Huntsman had made sure everyone was kitted out for such jobs. She took aim and fired 3 times at the charging crowd of shadowy figures. She couldn't tell if she hit any, and quickly she was fleeing their advance. But the gunshots sufficed to raise the alarm, and quickly the rest of the crew were coming out to the fields. By the time they arrived, this mass of attackers had toppled the inner wall as well, and were racing across the field on the edge of the fort's central courtyard. All the carefully prepared defences around the exterior meant nothing. The attacking group seemed to have no firearms. They were pirates, but not the successful kind. Perhaps 20 in number, they wore ragged cosmic clothing and bore a variety of hand-fashioned blades and clubs. "Load 'em up!" Huntsman called out. Staves and Kerma were at the west end of the field with their rifles, while Huntsman and Tokka were just barely clear of the horde. Shots whooshed across the fields and into the dark mass. Huntsman emptied his weapon in short bursts, but was then grappling with 5 or more assailants as they tipped him backwards over an innocent strawberry planter. Tokka floored a couple more with her shotgun, before taking a nasty cut across the chest. She struggled away in the mud while the attackers carried on. "Kote for all!" Comariero declared, now joining the battle alongside Boy and the fleet of Huskies. Comariero swung a clean sword, and Boy jabbed with a dull wood axe. The Huskies roared and jumped all over the assailants, yet still those assailants battled their way forwards. With greater numbers and determination than the crew, these last chancers were giving the bloody chancers a whole new meaning for their name. Boy and Comariero were toppled, and the Huskies faced the worst of the pirate blades. Perhaps half the pirates carried on from this battle still at large, but now a fresh round of shooting from Staves and Kerma thinned them out at close range. Tumas blocked the way from the field to the courtyard with his light machine gun, with which he liberally blasted the shadows before they could approach. At last, the 5 or so pirates still fit to move gave up and rushed back the way they had come. Shah tried to block their escape, but got a spear in the leg for her troubles, changing her mind on that one. The battle thus ended, with the inner field now a messy and heartbreaking scene. Staves, Kerma and Tumas moved up quickly, finding their comrades to be still alive, but by no means enjoying the moment. "I am still alive," Comariero muttered. "Of course you are," Kerma said, pulling him to his feet. Comariero was a little concussed, but was not bleeding, and took only a moment to find his feet. Boy, Tokka, Huntsman and Shah had it worse, and had to be wrapped up in bandages pronto. Luckily, Kerma knew how to do this quite well, and Hult had ordered a fresh stock of magic potions to help with such cases. The injured 4 were soon out cold in the medical cave, injected full of antibiotics and sewn back together beneath yellow blowwork lights. If only the same could be said for the Huskies. 2, Sum and Pound, had perished in the fighting, and the rest were immobile, bleeding from open wounds and panting weakly. Staves rushed to get Cannibal, Symphony, Only, Saber and Grin into the barn, where he did his best alongside Comariero to treat them. Grin didn't make it through the morning. Staves stayed there all day, and thankfully the rest of the mutts were stabilized, with little spoonfuls of cosmic potion making their situation a little less miserable. By the end of the day, it seemed safe to presume the worst was over, as safe as that can ever be to presume on Reticot anyway. The optimistic mood was shattered by the assorted near-death experiences and the loss of the friendly huskies, which of course had Staves spending all his time in the barn for a good week afterwards. If anyone tried to attack now, or the pirates came back, it would all be over. Tumas decided to kill the blowwork lights that could be seen from outside, which he did with a simple thwack of a mining pick, like a reasonable person. With no exterior lights, the constant darkness would make navigating up the mountainside almost impossible. This little move worked wonders, and the crew were destined to spend the coming winter in perfect peace and quiet. One day, Huntsman patrolled his way into the farm caves and found Tumas digging out potatoes.
"Never had you down for a paster," Huntsman said.
"It's easier than I thought, Butter. Turns chemicals in the soil into the good stuff, as long as you don't paste it. Orbital's selling us short on this whole food stuff."
"Selling us short on everything. That's how they make it work, Butter."
"Sure thing, Butter. Been thinking about that. You know, after we took down those drifters. They were clearly old Orbital stock. As all them, isn't it?"
"As or anyone, really."
"Too right. Still, since we got this whole setup here, I wonder if we couldn't have made something more of it with them all."
"Ah, don't worry about that, Butter. Not like they came in asking politely. If I were them, and you guys let me in, I'd have just killed you all and had it to myself, thank you very much."
"Here I was thinking you'd let me live."
"Maybe, just 'cause it's you, Butter."
"Cheers, Butter."
"I thought you were off your pipe saying you had a life here, but I can see it. It's not all that bad at all in all that butternut butter."
"Butternut better with you too, Butter."
"Spinning in a vacuum right as rainfall."
"Ah, you said good, is it?"
"Hang on, let's not get carried away."
"Too late for that, Butter."
"Never too late, Butter."
"What? What?" The final voice to speak was Lady, who entered to take her turn in the mountain fields. Huntsman and Tumas seemed very put off by her appearance, and Tumas raced off without a word. "Sorry, were you talking about something important?" Lady asked Huntsman.
"Hard to say, but we got a little more life yet to work that out later, eh, Butter?"
Yeah."
"Was just saying it's not all that bad here, in your little colony."
"Thanks. I mean, you're right. When I first got here, I really wanted to go home. But home wasn't as good as this."
"Even though it's the end of the world and all that, Butter?"
"I can't explain it, but at home, it always felt like the end of the world. I'd rather end it here. Oh, please don't tell Boy I said that."
"Whatever you want. Not here to rock the shuttle, just doing a job. Don't really know much about your pieces place, but whatever's going on, I'm glad to see you're getting into the swing of things here."
"Oh, thank you. Sorry, I don't know why I just offloaded that. Maybe because it's you."
"What? Gotta work out what that means one of these days."
"Sorry, I didn't mean anything. I felt like saying something. Don't tell anyone, though."
"As secret shames go, liking your little death cave's pretty much proper, Butter. You've been through it, I bet. I'll let you keep going, right?"
"Right. Thanks, Huntsman."
"No prob. Real name's Manny, by the way."
"Manny? Really?"
"Yep. Now you got something you ain't allowed to tell anyone, Butter."
With a wink, Huntsman took his leave. Cheeky fellow. So yes, the cave farming carried on. The winter chills were kept at bay by the infinite campfires, and the various injuries sustained defending the fort were patched away. However, I previously mentioned that there were two big problems the crew needed to deal with. While problem number one had their foremost attention, number two was bubbling and buzzing away in the background, unseen, unheard, and unstoppable. You see, the great caves of cultivation were having their blowwork sunlight provided through custom piping rigs that lacked a certain safety feature: the safety. It was all well and good connecting a pinwheel to a little LED light, but having an indoor sky powered by an industrial capacity wind and hydro power network was more than a hobbyist electrical engineer could really tackle. Or maybe the Overlord just wanted to hit them where it hurt. But the point is, about 1 month after the long night set in, the caves got real bright and real hot real fast. Something somewhere blew a little too hard, and blew right on up. A load of infrastructure in the middle of one of the new caves melted and started fires among the crops around it. This was first discovered about half an hour into the burn, when Kerma opened the steel door from the main cave passage and was knocked back by a rush of hot air. Immediately she saw an entire growing zone ablaze, with the two adjacent to it starting to catch. She hollered into the bedrooms and got everyone up, but now that she'd opened the main door, there was a constant flow of air from outside being sucked into the hungry blaze, rapidly accelerating its growth. The narrow confines of the cave system allowed the heat of the fires to spread across the base in no time at all, and by the time fire blankets were pulled from the storeroom, it was swelteringly hot. "Damn it, we gotta do something!" Boy shouted, shielding his face with his blanket and racing towards the fields. But in the farm caves themselves, the air temperature was already beyond 200 degrees, and he was soon racing back, his skin searing and turning red before his eyes. "Trucking courses! Get into the freezer!" Holt called out. The heat was now seeping out into the living areas, with the workshop, main hall and kitchen hitting boiling point. It was enough to suck the moisture from your body in moments, but thanks to Holt's quick thinking, everyone stumbled their way into the freezer and sealed the door just in time. There was still airflow from the kitchen outside, but the freezers were keeping things at room temperature for now.
"We should go outside. What if the fire traps us here?" Lady despaired.
"It won't trap us here. We sacrifice the crops. We have to," Boy said. "Once they're burnt out, we start again."
"Ash is good for plants in some cases," Shah offered.
"The flames are not easy to foresee," Comariero said. "They travel in embers and grow like weeds. We should sing of quick burning crops, so that it starves before the mischief of old Imola repeats."
"Can't you do something, Fire Tender?" Kerma asked.
"I can do the same thing as always. Wait and see if I live."
"Well, since it's come down to that again, think I might take a peek," Tumas said. There was protest, but he slipped out around the door all the same. "We need fire foam to put it out," Tokka said. "Or you can just stop the air. Kills people too, but it works in the belt mines."
"Still looking for that plan that doesn't involve dying now or waiting until we die later," Holt said.
Then Tumas burst back in, stinking of burning hair. "Vacuum's better than this, butter. It's burning down your pipes," he said. "The blowwork pipes," Stave said. "When you blow on a fire, it gets bigger. Those pipes are everywhere now, and they'll lead it here."
"You saying it's spread, Tumas?" Boy asked.
"The whole butternut beyond the workshop. Forget the bedrooms, butter. We got a few minutes before sprinting for the main doors is off the menu, and it's raining like a hygiene deck on Plague Day out there." "I don't understand," Lady said.
"Abandon the fort," Boy clarified. "Grab some grub and let's run."
Everyone picked up a few thawing crates of food and made a dash for the main hall. The kitchen and hall were beyond 200, forcing them to hold their breath to keep the air from mummifying their lungs there and then. The sound of the fire crunching up the adjoining workshop was ringing in the air vents. Outside it was a dark, cold morning, aka a morning in the long night, and indeed it was bucketing it down. Very welcome. Smoke was pouring from the main door in the mountainside that led directly to the bedrooms. While the crew floundered there looking at it, Staves raced off.
"Oi, don't just leg it, wonk," Boy called after him.
"Gotta save the animals," he called back. "Fine, fine. Everyone grab anything we can use that's still out here." "Everything good is back in the lab," Shah said. "As long as we have the cosmic quills, we can still repair everything, right?" Lady said.
"We're about to find out. We gotta get somewhere safe," Boy said. "There's a spot we can go get dry, remember?" Tumas said. Boy nodded.
"So that is why we find our crew grabbing all they can carry from the exterior buildings of the fort and running them through the murky rain to the old crypt down the mountain,
with staves dragging rain-shy goats along with them. Inside the main body of the fort, the flames were insatiable, travelling down the networks of blowwork pipes to consume all the crew had been building. They were left out in the cold dark, with their food supply cut down to a few salvaged boxes, now huddling in the same crypt their ancient predecessors had also died in trying to outlast a roll-up. At least they still had each other, and that was going to have to do, because now they had nothing else.